All right, Mike, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it, mate.
My
Great to
pleasure.
have you. And today we're going to dig into the portfolio of products of Mike Rubini, and the methodology behind building these, like rapidly building these profitable software businesses that you have been working on for the past few years. Would love to get a bit of background on you first, how you ended up here, and then we'll get into the methodology, and then maybe we can do a bit of screen sharing and look at some of the stuff you've built and are building, and get some context
Mhm.
there. Sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, background for me. I'm 29 years old guy from Italy, southern Italy. If you know, Italy is like a boot. I'm from the hill, and basically all of my life I studied music since I was 4 years old, and you know, one thing led to another. I actually graduated here from the local conservatory and then went to the US to study jazz because I'm in love with jazz. I think it's the greatest thing of all. It's like the thing that gets me pumped most of
Mm.
everything else. And so I went there to study jazz, and I figured out that there are a lot of crazy, great musicians that literally play for a pizza. And then I said, I have to do something, and so I did a marketing agency before, very very niche. In fact, I started out. Um, Sorry about the notification.
No worries.
Are you getting this sound? All right. Um, yeah, I started out actually doing works for jazz musicians and jazz brands, and then from there I went to SaaS because I could code. I've been coding since I was 9 years old, 10 years old, and then I basically did my first SaaS, software as a service, with investors, and then from there, that thing went south, and then from there on, which is about maybe 5 6 years ago, I went and been doing the opposite of what I've done so far with them. So no investors, no team, and even no CS degree. I don't have a degree in computer science, and I just spin up software products, and I bring them to profitability. That's what I do.
Awesome, man. All right. So, and this is, what year is this when you began the, uh, or when was the investor backed business? When did it fail? And then when did you spin into this direction?
Uh, I don't remember the exact years, to be honest, because well, the business that failed actually, was painful for me, even physically. Like I started, feeling bad even physically, because of basically relationship with people that went south,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about 5 6 years ago, right now.
Got it. Okay. And
Yeah.
all right, so let's get into the methodology behind these various software startups, because there are,
Yeah.
what, about a dozen that you're running at the moment, something like that.
Yeah, I think there are maybe 11 right now.
11.
Um, yeah, and so what I do differently from others, I think there are not a lot of people that do what I do, is that people usually take one business and they go like 1 to 10. I do, and not to say, by the way, let's do a disclosure
Sure.
with this. Not to say that my path is the only path. I usually am very wary of people that say that's the only path that you can go through, because like there you can do things in a million way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the framework there is like the territory is not mud, is a great framework. So what works for me might not work for you, and you might find other things that work for you. But for me, for the way that I wanted to have this business, what I usually do is I take things 0 to 1, and then I try to sum them up. So I go 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and eventually get to 10. And so that's what I do. That's my framework there.
So the zero, so I think I missed the last part of that. So 0 to 1 is getting it to operatability, having customers, making it profitable, and then you're talking about relationships between the businesses that happen after that. Or am I misinterpreting that?
Yeah. So basically, instead of going 0 to 10 with
Mm-hmm.
the business, I go 0 to 1 with many businesses, and then I add them up.
Got it. Got it.
And like the first thing that adds up is the revenue. So for
Yeah.
example, right now, my revenue is from MRR is about 6K MRR. And by the way, I build in the open, so all of these are completely, metrics that are available to everyone publicly.
Awesome.
But yeah, right now it's 6K, and I made that 6K with five profitable products, five profitable SaaS. Um, and then I do other things. I have a course, I have consultancy practice that I do just to C#. So I have different things, and I kind of add this up to, and they can also multiply in a way, because there are a few, like the model that everybody does is the tree model. So like I compare tree and grass, and
Mm-hmm.
this is also an idea that I permutated from music. Um, and in fact, it's an idea that I first got in touch with from my musical studies. It's called rhizome, and it's actually a philosophical concept that was developed by these two French philosophers, uh, Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari. And basically, it's like comparing a tree. So like the structure in which you can get ideas, there's like this tree structure and this, let's call it grass structure.
Mm-hmm.
So the tree structure is basically you have a lot of, you have one idea, and then you have like different branches, and then the usual thing that you would do is start cutting out these branches. But the like the objective is that the tree gets big, right? Instead, you can put this other idea of grass in contrast with this idea of trees, because grass basically you have a lot of entry points, and uh, while the tree basically grows vertically, the grass grows horizontally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's my idea of how I develop the businesses. And basically, one thing that's uh, interesting is the idea of also of subtracting. So while in the tree thing, basically you subtract and you cut the things that are non-essential to
Mm-hmm.
the main idea. Like with the grass, you can cut a thing and then put that thing in another place and start other grass, basically. So
Got it.
what the clients do with software is, how can I take a non-essential feature of a software and put that, in a completely different market where that idea and that feature becomes a core idea. Because my philosophy is all about building more cores, building more core products, and not building more features, if in a way. Because I think for developers, and I can code, it's very easy to just add new features over and over, and basically grow your thing into something that is non-essential to the user as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, Instead, you can take, as I said, non-essential features and just put those in another completely different market, and that becomes a core. Uh, and I think right now we can do an example if you want. For example, Trendly, which is one of my products that
Yep.
does basically spots rising trends in different countries, um, different industries as well. Basically, was born out of another product that I have that's called Cart, and Cart is for e-commerce. Basically, we uh, gather a lot of information regarding Shopify stores and things like that. And we had a trend feature inside cart that was specifically for e-commerce players, e-commerce merchants. And so uh, I, I viewed that the feature as non-essential to cart because what we are doing with cart is just providing more information on products, things like that. So the core idea is providing information on products and stores. So I took that out and I created a completely different product that use the same feature, but now can serve e-commerce people, but can serve also VCs that are looking for companies that are on the rise. It can serve SEO players, so SEO experts. It can serve journalists. It can serve a lot of other markets.
Yeah,
That's
that's awesome.
before. Yeah. So that's like a vivid example of when I used this idea of subtraction. And I think every product, for developers, it's easy to just start because, we as people in general, we oops, is that mine?
I think so.
Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry, I don't know how to shut notifications here. I just upgraded my computer, so I don't know where how to do it. But anyways, I was saying, yeah, for developers is just easy to as people, it's just easy to go back to what we know, which for developers is to code, and just put more features, more things into the products. But again, I think the user just pays for one thing and just do that one thing really well with your product.
Yep.
And yeah, that's that's something that I think about.
Yeah, that's cool. So they're essentially like MVPs that you then just position in different markets, as opposed to building out Trendly into this like 50 feature monster. You have it fulfill a very specific function, and then think about who needs it and position it
Yes.
in that market. So can we talk a little bit about how you take these, obviously 0 to 1 on the build side? That philosophy is develop a feature that somebody needs, put it together in a simple way, make it accessible by subscription or however the pricing works. But then how do you normally get that initial traction? Do you have a system for that, or a way for thinking about getting those first users onto each of the products?
Yes, I basically do a lot of grant work, as I don't do any paid advertising. I don't do anything like that because, well, for sure, like for cash flow reasons. But I also think paid advertising, I think of it a little bit as cheating. So initially, I do a lot of grant work, which is a lot of like commenting on platforms and really talk with your target market, things like that. In terms of framework, I think one that I use it's basically using microdata, what I call microdata. So, for example, I mean, for me, because there are a lot of microdata definition, especially in SEO. For me, microdata is basically clues that your target market um, leave online. So it could be like reviews, it could be like comments on your competitor product launches. So when I launched Trendly, I actually use microdata in so many different ways, because you can infer insights for when you like on the product level and on the marketing level as well. So for example, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask for the locations where you're picking those things up. Is that like Product Hunt? Like, where are you finding that data? Not to interrupt your point, just that context, I think would be very helpful too.
Yes. So for example, when I launched Trendly, I looked at all of my competitor launches, so on Product Hunt, Reddit, Hacker News, things like that. And also like forums in general are a great resource for this. And what else? Medium articles, YouTube videos, even like your competitor ads. You can look at comments on there.
Yeah,
which is
yeah, yeah.
great. Then interviews on podcasts. I mean, there are a lot of data that you can, microdata that you can collect. So these are some of the places that I looked into. And then when I launched Friendly, or even before, like when I was building it, I looked at this kind of of microdata and looking for weaknesses. So basically, as I was looking to my competitors, I was like, you know, their weaknesses are going to become my unique value proposition.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I looked for clues or of of feedback that I can use to build my product. So on a product level, for example, some would say, I want to consume, I like the newsletter format, and for context, all of my competitors are kind of newsletters, but I also would like an admin panel where I can log in and see the trends. So what I
Mm-hmm.
did is just basically doing the newsletter, but also the admin panel. And then also it gives you insight into their mind. So it's great. Like, for example, some user would say, is there a pro version where I can get alerts, or I can get like notification for when my keywords go viral, whatever. So the key there is that the user said, is there a pro version? So that gives me insight to say, this is in their mind, in the mind of the customer, this thing is if I can build an admin panel that has this notification feature, in the mind of the customer, that's gonna be a pro. So they might be willing to pay more. And other things that microdata can help um, as well is marketing, because when you collect this kind of data, then you basically collect all of the objections that customers already made on like your competitor launches. So
Mm-hmm.
you can, as English is not my primary language, as you can probably tell. Um, so I just, basically had a swipe file of things that I could, quickly copy and paste whenever I launched, so that I can handle objection. And it was already like the reply was already written by me in advance, so it was like very thoughtful. So this is another great example. And then no, the other thing is also about the copy as well, because like basically 50% of the copy that is on Trendly is not even my words, like my competitors' customers' words, and basically I took them and I developed marketing angles for my marketing. So for example, yeah, if you go into the about page, it's a great example. This one is awesome. And this was, I think, from a Reddit user,
Mm.
this concept of living in a bubble. There's another one, I don't remember specifically in what page I put this, but it's about Goliath. And basically it was comparing Amazon to a Goliath, because Amazon can basically have all the info, all the trends that it wants, because it just sees from the merchants, which one is selling
Right.
the most. Um, and this user on Reddit was saying, what about if I'm small, I have a small e-commerce business, I can never know if my product is trendy or not, unless just for luck, or some customers tell me, or I see an influx of orders, something like that. So I used that copy as well to develop the Goliath kind of angle.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's super useful. Microdata, man, it's great.
Yeah, I think it's a little overlooked, especially on like the way you frame it in like presenting an opportunity to build a one feature product or a very narrowly defined product. I've not heard anybody talk about it that way. I know like negative feedback for, maybe informing your marketing or your copy on your sales page, or, there are people that read Amazon reviews when they're writing sales copy. But I think having the level of narrow focus that you do, where you can actually turn negative feedback into, you know, the thing that people actually want, which is this just one
Yeah.
feature, is super smart. And obviously just a different mentality. I think, I don't know if anybody else on this call is wondering this, but is there, have you ever like gotten more distracted by one project than another, or seen a certain level of potential in something that has maybe drawn you away from the portfolio of 10 or 11 products, and thinking and thought, if I, you know, invest a certain amount of effort in this, I can get it further? How do you think about just balancing your time between all those products? Because there's got to be
Right.
a lot of things to do.
Right. So I make them compete for my attention. So like the product that um, has more revenue usually will get more love from me,
Mm-hmm.
more attention from me. So that's a great concept, I think. Um, but in terms of balancing time, um, I think it's important to detach a little bit from like the individual SaaS and just look at the business a little bit more from, you know, the big picture. And the way I look at my business is not, it's not SaaS. So my business is basically uh, improving the process, you know, my whole process. So the process of spitting out SaaS as fast as possible. Um, that's my business. It's not individual SaaS. It's just okay. It's part of it, the outcome, but the business is the process, right?
Got it. Got it.
Um, and 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 so I think, for example, I've been experimenting with a lot of SaaS purposely to get a lot of mixed experience, let's say. So, for example, I have SaaS that are completely free that act for lead generation for me. Like I have targetsnake.com, targetbear.com, uh, ecommerce.io. So I have like two or three that are completely free. Um, because I see my network of SaaS as a network. So uh, I, I was looking the other day and I can email 12,000 people right now uh, based on, you know, all the emails that I have through all of the SaaS, which is great. Because the effect of having a lot of SaaS is they multiply. So for example, on Trendly, I have an audience of 5K people right now, and that are subscribed to the newsletter on Trendly, and I can promote my other products.
Mm-hmm.
I do it all the time on free version. I promote Grouply, another product of mine, and I get customers there, and then, you know, I can basically cross promote all of them. And then I have SaaS products where the tiers are very low priced. So that you get like $10, $50, whatever. And then I have SaaS, namely one right now where the price is $500 a month or more. Um, and so this, this I do because I'm very risk averse. So I like both of the models where like um, you get like you get the question a lot. It's better to have like 10,000 people paying $10
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, 1,000 people paying $1,000, whatever.
Right.
So I get it. There's pro and cons on all of these models, and I just wanted to merge it. So yeah, the SaaS that it's priced at $500 a month gets me, you know, a little bit more cash flow to do stuff, and then the other ones get me the security, because even if like one member churns or one customer churns, it's not a lot. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
$10, $50, whatever.
No,
So yeah, it's nice.
it's a great safety net, having the
Yes,
revenue split across all these different businesses. That's for sure. But like you say, it's
absolutely.
there's yeah, it's pretty fascinating the way you talk about the process being the business. I think that's another different
Yes.
model than we see typically. And is this like, are you leveraging a lot of the same code base a lot of the time? I know you talked about the core
Yeah.
piece, like that allows you to spin things up relatively quickly, or there's some shared elements that happen across these different products?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the pros of having so many SaaS is that first of all, you can share expenses between all of them, so you can
Mm,
share the stack as well. And then what you learn on one SaaS, you can deploy to the other one. So it's a positive sum game and, and more even. And yes, to be correct, you are correct in the fact that I do have, you know, through the years developed a framework of basically my own framework to do stuff very quickly, which is the other important factor is how quick can you be. That's crucial, I think, to the business. And through the years, I've developed my own framework. I don't use any other frameworks in terms like of stack, and I'm not even fascinated or drew to like things like compelling things that could be in the programming space, like I don't know the next framework. I don't like
right, right,
all of them. I don't
right.
like any framework because they just um, you get a lot of dependencies, you get a lot of stuff that you don't need to use, and I'm a very minimalist programmer, so I just load all the things that I need, and that's it. I don't want any extra things in there. And basically, yes, the business is basically the framework. In a way, it's the process, it's the framework. It's not the stuff. It's just the outcome.
That's fascinating. And the the team that you build this with, you mentioned that you have technology background. Like, you do you work on these all yourself? You have a team that you outsource in to build? And the maintenance component, how does like, what does your day look like? Do you build these and
Yeah.
maintain them yourself?
So I work a lot. I like literally this is my bed right there. Oops, sorry, just my phone dropped. But yeah, my bed right there, and this is my workstation. So like I work maybe 13, I want to say 14, 15 hours a day. I don't code all of the hours, but I do work. Like I'm at the computer.
Yeah, yeah.
And I live basically, I have this thing called the way of the monk. And so I live like a monk, basically. I try to, um, I try not to have a lot of input. Um, and because I feel like we have a lot of inputs in our lives, like podcasts, books, videos, like courses, TV,
No
whatever.
doubt.
Um, and so like the market is selling us on convenience of like, let's say I wanna like not a lot of people are learning because they have a problem. They are learning just because, just because it's convenient,
They have
or
time.
they have time, and
Hmm.
they are learning just because again it's convenient. But I think learning is the new entertainment in that way. So I try to be very wary of that, and I try to pause all the inputs, including people. So I don't have a team because I feel people are one of the strongest inputs that you can have. And so I don't have a team. Maybe I will. I'm considering in 2021 having a team, but I'm not sure. First of all, I can't work well with people. Second of all, I was burned when I first did my first starts with investors and stuff like that.
Right, right.
And so I think like I can make money on command basically, and this is not to brag or something. Like my mentality is this: I can make money, but the problem is like the relationship with people. So I try not to have not to have people in my life, lots of people in my life. And then I try to learn only when I have a problem. So for example, now, um, as I said in 2021, I'm entertaining the idea of putting people into the process. I'm now learning a bit about management, but if I were not to do this, I wouldn't, go ahead and actively search for something. Because I think the other part is that whenever you learn something, there's a period that you need to be alone to do some introspection and to do some really, to internalize the thing that you've learned. If you don't do this, you will not make that thing that you learned your own. I don't know if it sounds good.
No, it makes sense to me. I think, yeah, the processing time of a new input, right? I think we are like definitely geared towards like over indexing on interact versus interact, process, interact when you need something
Yeah.
else, process, implement. Yeah, for sure. No, it
Yes.
makes total sense. I think,
And
but
I think like when I did outsource something, I only really outsource it to people that I treated like a machine, because I do a lot of automation and I do a lot of outsourcing to machines in a way. So all the things that I outsource are one-to-one system, are not one-to-many. So like for every process, I only have a maximum of one person handling that process. Um, and that's the way that it works for me now. I don't know if, like, I never worked with people who are who are frankly better than me and who can think, basically. I only work with people who can execute commands
right.
right now. And I wonder how that's like. Um, I, again, coming from the jazz and music background, in jazz, when you come to the stage, um, and maybe it's not your group, you're doing a jam session or whatever, you find people that have their own skills, and we perform on a piece of music that we collectively know, but all of us, bring something to the table that is our own basic experience, our own skills on the instrument, things like that. So I think something of that framework can be reused to SaaS and to what I do here, but I'm not sure I will do it. To be frank, for now. For now, I
Yeah,
will stick to the one-to-one.
yeah, super interesting. And Bram actually just asked a question along these lines. What instrument do you play?
I play saxophone.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I think, um, there's something so interesting about how you like when you learn self-reliance in one context, then you're just essentially bringing it over to a different context. And especially if you've had bad experiences with teams and like relying on people that haven't come
Yes.
through, it's a hard, yeah, it's a hard leap to make, especially if it's not got some, there's no like lifestyle goal or thing driving at you needing to do that. I think that's another important thing, is like recognizing what you
Yeah.
want or what you are interested in building towards.
Yeah. And uh, yeah, I think for me to put someone in the business right now, I think of them as like basically reaping all of the benefit with none of the work. And I know this is probably not true, but I've been doing some work to get where I am, and then this person comes. Uh, Maybe I have to hold their hand too, because I do
Mhm.
have some SaaS where I have some partners in the form of co-founders, because one other, like, I build in two ways. One is via negativa, so what we described before, just like subtracting from what I already have. The other thing is I partner with course creators, so they have a platform, and I create a platform like SaaS for them, and then we partner up. So I have Diaflow, which is a SaaS that aggregates micro private equity deals. that I partnered with Ryan Cook, the founder of FOMO.com, to and he had a course on microacquisitions.
Got it. Got it.
So we partnered up. And I also have one other one called fastliens.co. Um, and it's about tax liens, tax deeds. It's complicated things, business that you can only do in America, in the US. But yeah, they had a course on this, and I partnered with them. But sometimes it feels like I'm holding their hand, you know what I mean? So I don't know if it's me that I can do many things. Maybe it is because I've been doing some marketing, some code, some, I can do a lot of things. Um, but it doesn't justify the expense for me in my mind. But maybe again, I will change in the future. I don't know.
No, I think it's fascinating. Like it is a model that you have built around your like strengths and preferences, which I think
Yes.
is powerful and is a great lesson that
The other, yeah, I think the other thing of having a team is that you can keep your day really flexible and not structured, which is I
mhm.
think key to productivity as well. Because productivity is basically it's basically a lie if you think about it. Because there's like this, it's like when you want um, to get fit, there's like a conspiracy that wants you to get fat. I joke about this, but yeah, it's like my mom baking stuff, or like even like the work that I do, which is sedentary. And it's the same for productive. When you want to be productive, there's a conspiracy against you being productive, and that's in the form of tools as well. Like I don't use any tool. I don't have a second screen. I don't use any tools. I just have my computer, and then I stay here and I work 12,
Okay, yeah.
13 hours a day. So like you don't need anything to be productive. And in fact, the only thing that you want is building momentum. And to build momentum, you need to be very fast and be able to work on whatever is important or most interesting at any time. So to do that, you don't have to keep a schedule basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No, I
that's
love the momentum point. That's like, it's very hard to structure momentum. It has to come from some force that, some intrinsic motivation that creates momentum, you returning to, or doing the thing of the highest importance or the
yeah,
highest leverage in the moment.
yes, and also like um, with team members is like a lot of people will say, okay, you're doing whatever 10K a month. If you add one person to your business, you will do 20. Well,
Hmm.
it's not like that. Like the relationship is not linear. In fact, I think you could potentially get to 20K with another person, but the reality of it is it's more likely to be like you are 10K right now. Next month, if you add the person to your business, you will do three, because like now you need to be a manager, you need to
Hmm.
handle them.
Hmm.
They're going to like uh, do bad things because it's just entropy. They will do some mistakes. It's just entropy, so you need to account for that as well. So like for me, the relationship of adding a team member is not like you will get to 20. It's the opposite. You will get to 3, 4, 6, then maybe 12, then maybe, but it takes time. So the time is also something to account for, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I can't remember where I heard this, but the idea that a business gets less efficient by definition when you add people. That's always been in the back of my head too. And this idea
Yeah.
that um, what do you think the biggest like levers are for the individual like operator? Like my head goes straight to distribution. It's like if you can crack distribution, and this is kind of what you're talking about with your free products, it's like
Yeah.
that play over the long term, like building this list of people that wants what you build is what really unlocks leverage versus, hiring somebody who can, I don't know, be a community manager for one of your products, or I think there's so many different like layers of mental models, the incentives, everything that makes the additional team member like less effective. But just curious for your take on like where the highest points of leverage are in lieu of hiring more people. Does that question make sense?
Hmm. So you are saying what are biggest um, the biggest leverage points that you can exploit with people?
No,
I get
without
that right.
people, to stay small.
Without
So
people.
yeah, what are the
All
things that
right.
you think about that stop? Yeah, yeah.
Sure. The stop. So the things that I think about the stop uh, doing big things, or that just work.
That that negate the need to hire people. So I think
Oh, okay. All right. So I think one is time for sure because I want to be fast, and the the whole idea of having team members requires you to plan things,
mhm.
which is a thing that I don't like to do for certain type of ideas. So I think whenever like there are different tiers of it, like different tiers of ideas. So whenever you have like a basic idea, okay, you write it down, maybe you plan for it. But my take is that whenever you have an idea that you can clearly see a path for, you act on it quickly. So most most advice is actually not that. It's actually, okay, you had an idea, put it down, let it sit for a bit.
Mhm, mhm.
But actually, what happens there when you let it sit is that you have the fun or in your mind because you go to sleep and then you think about the idea and you know basically your brain does all the work for you, and then when you actually go to do that idea, it feels a lot more like work in a
Right.
way. Um, so instead, I try to have fun, not in my brain, but doing the things that I want. And so whenever I have a good idea where I can clearly see, a path, um, and that I can clearly see that that idea is a good idea for me because, by the way, you have to know some things about yourself, and the way that you know it's by building. Because, for example, for me, I know that I'm not a grower, I'm a starter. I know that I don't like frameworks. I know that I don't like people. So all of these things I know because I build, not because
Yeah, yeah.
I see it and just do the work in my mind. So when you know these things, um, then it's easier to build, and so I think that also helps with momentum, which we talked earlier. And so I think time it's the biggest factor there um, in regards to team because I had a team once of developers, and they were like 3 or 4 developers that I led. And maybe I'm a bad communicator, I'm sure I am, but like you can put them and me, and I will win every time. Like I will be faster and code the thing better maybe every time
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like you spend a lot of time communicating, and then it's all about like what he understood, what you really mean, and then what he perceived of you, and then all of this communication stuff. It's like you want to say something, when you say something you really have this back and forth between you and the other person, maybe like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, yeah.
so so yeah, it's difficult to handle people. That's my
Yeah,
biggest
that, totally agree with that. I
hurdle.
can't the like what is said and what is heard is always are always two different things, right? We got a couple questions
Yes,
here, Mike, and if anyone else has
right.
questions, whack them in the chat. But let's take these down. The Can you do a high level overview of the web stack you use for the current suite of products?
Yes, I use PHP, plain PHP, so no framework. I use plain JS, so no framework there. and I use, well, HTML, CSS. I use Bulma.io. That's the only pure CSS framework I use, just for convenience. And that's it. Like a little bit of Python, but yeah, that's it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Priyanka asks, I'm interested to know Mike's big goal. What are you working towards, or are you all in for the journey?
Yes, I do have some goals. Um, I work with intentions a lot more than goals, to be honest. Um, but yes, I do have some goals. So for the business this year, I want to 120K, which is basically 20K a month. And for context, last year, I in December I almost reached 10K. Um, and then in November, I think I did like 6 or 7. Yeah, but I did most of the money in the last like 2 or 3 months of the year, and that's because I'm as I said relocating to Lisbon, and for fiscal reasons, tax reasons, I won't get into that, but yeah, this is what it's an obstacle for me. It's just like taxes. So when I get that sorted, then I will be able to unlock a lot more growth. And it's all mentally, because right now in the, like last year I didn't pay myself for the business, not a dime. I
Right.
basically survived from the proceed that I had done you know previous years the previous years, and this is a thing that was due to this tax thing that I need to solve. But when you don't pay, you of course you don't have the reward, you don't have the gratification. So like you don't put the the the, the, the foot on the pedal in a way, you put the gas. And so that's what's happening mentally to me in 2020. 2021, I think I will sort that thing out, and hopefully do a lot more.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think there's a couple of the products in the portfolio. I haven't even looked at all of them, but feels like there's a very high ceiling on a lot of those products.
Yes, I'm sure. Surely, I think I can surely grow some of them. I'm also entertaining the idea of selling some of them, just like to have, for different reasons. But one is having my first big win in a way, and just some relatively large sum of cash coming in that I can use for like cash flow reasons. So there's that. But
Awesome.
I can tell you what I will do. I will continue to do the opposite of what everyone says. That's for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, this was and Stephen asked a question, but Stephen, we did cover that earlier. I'll get you the timestamp for it. But Stephen asked about uh, why not combine some of these into a single product. We talked about that for about 10 minutes earlier on, so you can get the answer to
Right.
that if you rewind.
Yeah. I think another thing that is worth mentioning is like, which is another thing that everybody tells you is like focus on customers, like, and they all got that from like Bezos, like, who is basically obsessing over customers type of thing, um, which of course is true, because if you don't have the customer, you don't have the business. But for me, it's like obsessing over founder. So
Yeah.
it's like founder first. So, and that's because if I'm not well, um, my business doesn't perform well, so I don't get a good service to my customers. Especially being a solopreneur. If I'm well, then the business goes well and it does well, and I can sustain give a better service to my customers. And so yeah, obsessed over founder, not customer, or customer leader. But and one application of this, I just for example, I just in December, no, in January this month, beginning of this month, I got about $300-400 worth of subscriptions of my customers.
Mm.
So my revenue was like 6K MRR. Right now I'm at like 5.6, 5.7. Um, and yeah, I did that because I don't want like it's my house, my rules, and I don't
Yeah, yeah,
want
yeah.
customers that pay me, but they don't use the product. And that's one of the secrets that nobody tells you about SaaS is that people forget about your SaaS subscription. I don't want that type of customers. And so, like, I did get controversial opinions on Twitter when I posted this,
Right, right.
but because some some people were saying like maybe the customer wants to use it once a year, who cares? Um, but I'm much better off, handling a customer that is upset because I canceled their subscription. Then a customer that is upset because he got charged for
Right.
20, 20 months, something like that. So yeah, I think that's also a cool concept.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're not going to hear that many places, so that's admirable. The one last question, which I think will be a good wrap up, is
Yep.
are these this is, I guess, a somewhat of an existential question, but like what's the intrinsic interest that drives this? Because you hear a lot of advice, and I think you'll have a good take on this because this has been like contrarian in general, but things that interest you, products that interest you, markets that interest you, those are the places you should spend your time. I'm curious. There's clearly something about everything you build that you have an intrinsic interest in. Have you like
Mhm.
identified what that is? Because I think
Yeah.
that idea is a helpful thing to give people some context into what drives you too.
Yes. So all of my products are around this idea of collecting data, um, especially third-party data, and
Mm-hmm.
basically use it for profit. And I think with data we have a lot of problems. One is basically we have a lot of it, uh, maybe yeah, too much of it, um, and which is a problem called information overload, as you know. And the other is that data is all over the place. So like that's called information fragmentation. So just solving these two problems generally will allow you to to have a bunch of products ideas. Um, and generally, um, what I do with all of my products is sourcing information from some source, um, and then putting all of the information from all of these sources into one place, so that
Mm-hmm.
um, you can improve operations like that of a business. You can improve the product for of other people. You can improve the marketing of other people. So it unlocks different way you can help people by doing that.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a way more sustainable like catalyst at the center of the business itself or the process itself. It's like this is the thesis. We can build 30, 40, 50 products around this thesis and this ability that we have. We get much
Yes,
better at the process of finding, organizing, and presenting data. We can just do
yes,
that in all of these different areas for all of these different people. I think it's great.
absolutely, absolutely. If you look at my product, it's all the same idea. And then the other thing that they have in common uh, is well that all of them are built in public, which I think is great because well, if you are like a bigger company, you it's better for you because basically I think of every company as a glass box, and you can see through this glass box obviously. So it's better for you to handle this conversation and be in the open by yourself, and and like steer the conversation where you want. And it's not as cool when you are closed and then things get out. So for example, one clear example is that is Glassdoor. Like
Mm.
anyone can go on Glassdoor and see if your company is a cool place to work on or not. But if you were to build in the open, and just disclose who your team is, and have a chat conversation, people can get a feeling of your team and how it's like to work with you by watching YouTube videos or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So it's much better for me. I do it because um, I want to inspire other people, first of all, to do the same thing that I do, and I think it's relatable right now because I'm not at 10K yet. Um, and the other thing is what I do looks like magic, but it's not because whenever you go 0 to 1, you basically have something that wasn't there before, and so it looks like magic. Like this was
Right.
not here, now it's here. What is it? And so in the mind of people, there's like they cannot see work attached to this because again it's magic. Instead, when you build in public, you kind of expose yourself, expose all the tears, like all the the tears and the sweat that goes into building something. And I think um, customers appreciate that. And then the other reason is that customers are my real investors. So I want to let them know how I use their money, basically also, um, which is a cool concept as well. And so these are my three reasons for building in public.
Awesome, man. I think that is a fantastic note to close on, Mike. Thank you so much. Um,
My pleasure.
I learned a lot.
Thank
I
you very
got,
much.
yeah, makes got a lot of ideas after talking to you. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, man.
Awesome, man. And Mike is in Slack, so you can always get in
Yep.
touch with him over there, and we'll drop a summary with links to all his products in with the notes from the conversation. Thanks everyone for tuning in, much appreciated, and thank you, Mike.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, mate. Bye bye.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, everyone. Bye.